Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into 15 awesome SNES beat-em-ups that you probably started, but somehow never finished. If you love old-school pixel punch-ups, tight controls, and ridiculous boss fights, you're in for a wild ride. Smash that like button and subscribe now so we can keep the nostalgia train rolling. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. Let's start with a classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. This one still hits with colourful sprites, goofy turtles, and enough foot soldiers to carpet the city in pizza boxes. You and your friends, or just you being lonely, I don't judge, brawl through time-twisty levels, from prehistoric dinosaur showdowns to far futuristic laser skeletons. Each turtle moves differently, and the dash attacks and slams added a satisfying weight to the punches. Sure, the story makes little sense. Why are ninjas time hopping? But that's part of the fun. It's like a cartoon gone completely bonkers. The animations shine even today, and the soundtrack slaps so hard you might just nod your head while mashing the punch button. For those who dropped it mid-game because of difficulty spikes or just one more level syndrome, it's worth coming back to. A bit chaotic? Yes, but gloriously so. Final Fight 2. Next up, Final Fight 2, the sequel to the original classic, but this time strictly for SNES. If you loved side-scrolling street brawls with big guys punching bad guys harder than they should be punched, this one's right up your alley. The game introduced 2 new characters alongside returning tough guy mayor Mike Haggar, giving you fresh fighting styles to experiment with. And here's a nice bonus, it supports 2-player action, meaning more chaos, more combo juggling, and more who gets the last hit fights. You roam through multiple levels, punching through thugs, dodging garbage cans. Yes, those trash cans are basically mini bosses, and feeling like a justice machine. It's not exactly perfect. Compared to arcade-style beat-em-ups, sometimes the SNES version feels a bit slower, controls a bit stiff, but you still get that retro punch-up vibe, that we are cleaning the streets energy. If you quit because combos were clunky, try again, team up with a friend, and it gets way more fun. Final Fight 3. If you thought Final Fight 2 was tough, Final Fight 3 kicks things up a notch. You have 4 playable characters now, old favourites and new faces, each with their own moves. The game added dash attacks, jump attacks, throws, even special super moves that feel satisfying to land. There are branching paths through levels, and even multiple endings depending on how you play. Nice attempt at replay value. On top of that, you can sometimes have a CPU-controlled partner if you don't have a second player handy. But let's be honest, for all the added bells and whistles, a big criticism stuck. It often feels like more of the same. For every clever move, there's a boss who's just a bigger palette swap thug. Some critics said it lacked polish, and compared to arcade-style originals, the improvements were small. But if you stuck it out till the end, the extra moves and replay paths do make it worth your time. It's not perfect, but it gives you a solid, polished SNES-era brawl with enough tricks up its sleeve. Brawl Brothers. Then there's Brawl Brothers, the second game in the Rushing Beat series. This is street fighting with attitude. You walk sideways, punch bad guys, pick up weapons like sticks, guns, grenades, then throw them at fools like you're angry and had bad morning coffee. Compared to other beat-em-ups, this one had more enemies on screen and a wider moveset, which felt fresh back in the day. The final boss fights, especially against the martial artist with a flexible staff, could be a real pain if you didn't dodge well, but the pixel art? Nice. Music and enemy variety? Pretty decent for a mid-90s SNES cart. Sure, the pace is a bit slower than arcade-style games, and the combat isn't as tight as some Legends, but for a Saturday night brawl fest with buddies, it still delivers. If you drop this one because you got frustrated by slow controls, you might find a charm when you revisit it now with patience, and maybe snacks. The Peacekeepers. Following Brawl Brothers, the Peacekeepers tried to bring something more ambitious to the SNES. It kept the rushing beat spirit, but added branching paths, special moves, and multiple endings. Instead of following the same old street fighting formula, you sometimes get to choose which direction to go, and your choices can lead to very different fights and bosses. That alone made it feel more replayable than many other beat-em-ups. On top of that, there were character-specific attacks and little quirks that made each playthrough unique. But, and here's the catch, the game still struggled against the top SNES brawlers. The pacing could be sluggish, the controls a bit sticky, and enemy patterns sometimes repetitive. Some players found that after a few levels, it felt like same old punches, different backdrop. Despite that, if you played far enough, the branching stories and multiple endings gave genuine value. It's a hidden gem worth dusting off for another round. Batman Returns. Batman Returns brings a superhero spin to SNES beat-em-ups. Based on the movie, you control Batman, fighting through levels filled with goons, bosses, and batarang throws. On the plus side, the game delivers solid graphics and vibes. The music and atmospheric sounds give Gotham a dark 90s comic movie feel, and the variety of weapons, from batarangs to tricky moves, kept fights lively. Critics at the time praised the audio visuals and slightly adjustable difficulty for being friendly to newcomers. On the flip side though, some people found it a bit too easy on lower settings, which reduces replay value. There's less brutal combo depth compared to other brawlers, and at times, enemies go down too quickly, making some fights feel shallow. Still, as a superhero beat-em-up with smooth visuals and simple fun, it's great to drop in when you just want to beat up bad guys without thinking too much. Captain Commando. Then we land on Captain Commando, a wild, futuristic beat-em-up that tries to mix space age vibes with street brawling. You pick from 4 characters: a high-tech armoured hero, a ninja, a mummy alien, even a baby in a mech suit. Yes, you heard that right. The original arcade version was more charged, with big explosions, mech riding robots, and over-the-top superpowers. The SNES port from 1995 kept some of that flavour, but also lost a few punches, literally. Because of hardware limitations and censorship, many cool features like mech suits and some weapons didn't carry over. Sprites and backgrounds are still decent, controls decent, but the enemy variety and visual flair feel toned down. Music and sound effects are there, but forgettable compared to arcade glory. That said, if you don't have access to the arcade or a re-release, this SNES version is still decent fun. Grab a friend, pick weird characters, baby mech for the win, and enjoy a goofy, slightly flawed but charming sci-fi brawl. The King of Dragons. Moving from city brawls to medieval fantasy, The King of Dragons mixes beat-em-up action with light RPG elements. Released originally as an arcade game, then ported to SNES, you fight through 16 levels, though many are relatively short, across a kingdom plagued by monsters controlled by a dragon lord. What makes this game stand out is the level up system. As you progress, your character becomes stronger, giving a sense of growth not common in many beat-em-ups of that era. The fantasy setting and monster slaying vibe add variety compared to street fights. The music, composed by a well-known composer, helps set the epic mood. On the downside, some levels feel repetitive, and enemy types recycle a bit too much. That said, the mixture of beat-em-up action and light character progression gives a unique experience. If you quit because it felt samey, it's worth another go, especially if you like your heroes swinging swords rather than landing punchlines. Knights of the Round. Keeping the medieval mood alive, Knights of the Round brings the legend of King Arthur to the SNES beat-em-up scene. You get to play as Arthur, Lancelot, or Percival, each with different strengths. As you progress, your knights automatically upgrade armor and weapons, giving that nice sense of leveling up without having to micromanage stats. Combat is simple but satisfying. Sword swings, axes, medieval magic vibes, not flashy but solid. The upgrade system rewards perseverance, and each knight feels distinct. Some are fast, some are strong, some more balanced. But here's the catch: for all its charm, the game can feel a bit short compared to sprawling brawlers. Boss fights sometimes don't feel too different from regular levels, and repeated patterns can make things feel familiar quickly. Yet, for a medieval-themed beat-em-up on SNES, Knights of the Round delivers a fun ride. If you love old legends, swords, shields, or just smashing goblins in armor, give this one a try. The Ninja Warriors. If you crave pure, no-frills beat-em-up action on the SNES, the Ninja Warriors delivers that in spades. It's less about deep combos, more about raw fighting spirit. You move sideways, dodge, punch, kick, and defeat wave after wave of enemies. The simplicity works to its advantage. There's nothing fancy, but when sprites move fluidly and hits land solid, the satisfaction is pure. The game keeps you focused. No RPG fluff, no long upgrade menus, just you, a ninja or two, and a path of bad guys to clean. Some might criticize it for being too basic, maybe a bit repetitive. Enemies don't get super creative, and there isn't much variety in moves, but sometimes that's exactly what you want. Straightforward, old-school punching without complication. For those nights when you just want to relax and mash buttons, Ninja Warriors hits the spot. Ghost Chaser Denshi. Let's talk about a lesser-known but weird little gem, Ghost Chaser Denshi, because information about it is pretty scarce. I'll keep this short and in spirit. This game tries to mix supernatural horror vibes with beat-em-up action. You wander through creepy stages, fight ghostly enemies, and try to stick to life bars instead of sanity meters, because SNES paranoia would have broken the cartridge. The graphics are a bit rough around the edges, and sometimes hit detection feels sketchy, so expect weird jumps or punches that don't land when you swear they should. Also, enemy variety is limited, and the game can feel repetitive quickly. Yet, for fans of horror-themed brawlers, it has a unique atmosphere. If you never finished it, or never played at all, it's worth a try, but maybe keep expectations modest. Legend. Legend steps a little aside from standard beat-em-ups with a medieval fantasy hack and slash vibe. You pick one of two knights and traverse stages to stop a corrupt prince from unleashing evil magic. The pixel art is pretty good, and the medieval-themed enemies, castles, and swords give it a nice fantasy flavour. That said, many players criticise Legend for being repetitive. The combat feels like rinse-repeat. Swing sword, kill enemy, move forward, repeat. There isn't much depth in moves, and enemy variety is limited. For some, it's fun like a Saturday afternoon game. For others, it quickly becomes predictable. Still, if you enjoy simple sword swings, pixel art castles, and don't mind monotony, Legend can scratch a nostalgic itch. It's not deep, but sometimes shallow simplicity has its charm. Iron Commando Kutetsu no Senshi. Now for a bit of rarity, Iron Commando Kutetsu no Senshi. Released in 1995, this one flew under many radars and never became a blockbuster hit. That's part of its hidden gem charm. The game tries to deliver solid beat-em-up action. You walk, punch, fight enemies, maybe toss some weapons if you find them, and make your way through stages. The pace isn't lightning fast, and some levels feel uninspired. Controls can be a little sluggish compared to top-tier brawlers, which might explain why many started and then abandoned it. But for players curious about lesser-known SNES titles, it's a worthwhile detour. It feels like someone's rough draft of a beat-em-up, not quite polished, but still full of spirit. If you're in the mood for obscure SNES history, Iron Commando could surprise you with a few fun hours. Sonic Blast Man 2. Next up, Sonic Blast Man 2, a sequel to a quirky original, reimagined for SNES as a straightforward beat-em-up. You play a hero punching through waves of enemies, aliens, robots, all the usual chaos. Sonic Blast Man 2 gives you special attacks. You can grab enemies, shake them, throw them, unleash sonic waves, or charge a powerful D-punch that deals big damage. It's not an arcade perfect port, don't expect perfect hit detection, and because of hardware limits, the experience is simpler than in the original arcade version. The game is single player only, which reduces the hype for group play. Some bonus levels nod to the original, but they feel a bit tacked on. Still, as a solo beat-em-up with a dose of over-the-top power moves, Sonic Blast Man 2 has a certain charm. It's not a legend among SNES games, but if you want single-player mayhem with a slightly weird superhero flavour, it might just satisfy. Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage, and last, but not the least, swinging into our SNES lineup, Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage brings comic book chaos straight to your screen. You can play as Spider-Man or Venom, mashing through waves of deranged villains from the infamous Maximum Carnage storyline, including Shriek, Demogoblin, and the unhinged Cletus Cassidy. The game nails the comic's manic energy with colourful graphics and constant action, though it can feel overwhelming with enemies popping up everywhere. You have a decent moveset, punches, kicks, web shots for Spider-Man, and Venom's raw brute power, which makes each character distinct. One critique is that the level design sometimes feels repetitive and hit detection can be tricky during the most chaotic moments. Still, the game's appeal comes from pure, over-the-top superhero brawling fun. It's like a comic book come to life, messy, loud, and ridiculously satisfying. If you quit mid-game thinking it was too hectic, give it another spin. Maximum Carnage delivers cartoonish mayhem and heroic fun that's hard to beat. Alright, that was a wild ride through 15 SNES beat-em-ups you might have never finished. Hope this got you nostalgic or curious enough to dust off your old cartridges or emulator and try, or maybe retry some of them. If you enjoyed this blast from the past, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Catch you next time for more pixelated chaos.